became popular in countries such as India, emphasizing the government's control over currency flow, which became the mainstream opinion in academia, and most mathematicians were still advocating for free currency floating before this. At the same time, discussions about the financial explosion in China are also on the rise, with the mainstream view that China is at the center of the vortex and has a high probability of crisis. They are worried that China will be blown up and then destroyed. In fact, the current situation of China's finance is more aptly described as the financial explosion because it represents a long-awaited energy, and the process of ultimately entering the financial explosion can be controlled by the government. In the absence of a sound financial system in China, relevant departments will not easily loosen financial regulations. As a result, China's financial civilization will transition from the financial explosion to a controlled explosion. From the perspective of Chinese reality, industrial civilization and agricultural civilization are still ongoing, and information civilization is beginning to emerge. The financial industry, on the other hand, belongs to the model of strict national regulation and a conservative approach. At this moment, entering the financial civilization still requires several hurdles. The first is the effective grafting of financial civilization with industrial civilization, agricultural civilization, and information civilization. As China's economic development mainly depends on backward state-owned enterprises, the traditional economy civilization dominated by these state-owned enterprises is likely to be magnified in the financial civilization, and finally destroyed by the financial civilization. Once the country liberalized the private economy and the innovation vitality of the whole society, it is likely to enter a benign interaction state of the four civilizations. The second is the level of understanding of the game rules of financial civilization by relevant parties, and the degree of subversion of the wisdom of industrial civilization. For example, many experts believe that the phenomenon of nationwide stock trading is abnormal and a signal of the stock market reaching its peak, while officials from the State-Owned Assets Supervision and Administration Commission believe that nationwide stock trading is a great thing due to our limited knowledge. It is difficult to grasp it clearly within a limited time frame, regardless of the purpose for which this statement is made. At least it indicates that the management still allows room for discussion on new phenomena, rather than blindly denying them. China's hybrid finance effectively balances tolerance and control, and may dominate the next wave of financial civilization. The conspiracy theory failed in the subprime crisis. It is undeniable that there have been instances in history where certain families or consortia controlled a country or the international financial system for a certain period of time, such as the Rothschild family, the Morgan Consortium, etc. However, in today's global financial integration, financial strategies between countries and the strategies of multinational consortia are highly likely to hedge or offset each other in the process of implementation, even if the conspiracy is successful. As a member of the international financial system, it is also difficult to stay out of the crisis. Just like Nazi Germany provoked World War II, but was finally destroyed by World War II. Thus, compared with honest labor and to each according to his contribution in industrial economy, financial civilization controls capital with wisdom. But the result is full of uncertainty. And the most important point is that Fukuoka once said before that story is the general equivalent of financial civilization. Its characteristic lies in identifying the differences in things and exaggerating them infinitely. One of the reasons why Britain and the United States can monopolize the forefront of financial civilization is this. For example, when Morgan Stanley opened the door to the non-performing asset market in China's banking industry in the problem faced by the Chinese banking industry was clearly how to reduce the non-performing asset problem in new loans, while Morgan mistakenly described it as how to dispose of existing non-performing assets. In the United States, Morgan's main method of disposing of non-performing assets is clearly to buy them and for the recovery of the macroeconomic environment. But in China, they promote the so-called popsicle theory rather than slowly melting them down. It is better to sell them quickly. And for a long time, the U.S. Congress has always regarded real trade as the entire economic issue between China and the United States, and has been working with the White House to reap the benefits one by one. So, it's not just small scammers who are scammers, but big companies, institutions, and countries. As the saying goes, behind every huge fortune lies a profound evil. The financial explosion has brought unprecedented prosperity and high-quality living enjoyment to people. But it has also laid the foundation for injustice, the seeds of sex, uncertainty, and deception, just like the industrial economy. Start from utilizing resources to being limited by them, from creating wealth to wasting wealth. And when a thing develops to its extreme, alienation arises. In this way, it seems easy to imagine the terrifying prospect of a financial civilization that is passionate about storytelling. On the one hand, the alienation of credit. The financial explosion has exploded the connection between tempting interest rates and honest products, such as the bond derivatives market, the dual-track system of market price and planned price, but a split strategy of opening prices while providing targeted subsidies. Although the relevant departments are still hanging on CPI and extremely sensitive to indicators, the use of administrative force to force down prices has gradually been falsified by the market, and all parties are forced to accept reality through market lessons. It will be a matter of time before prices are relaxed. But this is not to say that opening up is as simple as opening up. It requires the maturity of various conditions such as timing, policies, and situation. This will be a gradual process. Considering the affordability of society, relevant parties are likely to adjust the pace and speed of price liberalization with changes in the situation, giving society enough time and space to transform and digest. At the same time, Liberalizing prices does not mean that the government will let go. Regulation can still affect prices, but the methods have changed. It is no longer administrative control, but indirectly affects prices by influencing market supply and demand, such as the rice bag, the Gettable Basket Project, or price adjustment funds. So the crux of the problem lies not in opening up prices, but in how to maintain social stability. Looking at the impact of reform. The most likely impact is on the price-sensitive vulnerable groups. In order to stabilize people, ease hearts and promote reform, the government's bottom-up targeted subsidies may become a protective cushion for the gradual liberalization of resource prices in the future. This turns the key question to how to target subsidies, whether directly or indirectly. The reason why education reform and healthcare reform are in a dilemma is because relevant parties attempt to reduce the burden on the public through indirect subsidies from institutions, schools, hospitals, etc. The starting point is correct, but subsidy institutions are prone to rent-seeking and corrupt, but they cannot effectively compensate. Therefore, indirect compensation is better than direct compensation. The focus of future subsidies is likely to shift from subsidizing hospitals and schools to directly subsidizing patients, impoverished students, and the poor with quasi-currencies such as medical vouchers, education vouchers, and food vouchers. On the other hand, the operating mechanism of subsidies precisely involves the sensitive core of structural reform. Indirect compensation and direct compensation will originate from two different power operations. The former requires the separation of the linear functions of the administrative department from the powers directly under the state, while the latter requires research on the separation of decision-making and administrative execution. It is difficult to truly achieve separation in the short term. It may be a long-term trend towards future policy goals. But under the pressure of the situation, strengthening the power of digitalization, the internet, and other technologies have broken down all the walls of the world, allowing the democratization of capital, technology, and information to come at the same time. Technological progress has proven that the function of the left brain can be replaced, and technology can be more efficient. Secondly, the transformation of exchange, production, trading, innovation, and lifestyle, especially as China is facing the cross-cutting of these 5 ways, has led more and more people to shift from practical rational needs such as survival and food, to emotional demands such as entertainment and happiness. The shift from focusing on high economic growth with one hand GDP to sacrificing GDP to achieving energy conservation and consumption reduction and calculating the happiness index in various regions is clear evidence. Thirdly, the Huashan road of science and technology has been falsified, and various factors such as capital, culture, and talent are constantly being dismantled, grafted, and integrated under the impact of marketization, industrialization, virtualization, and other forms. The reallocation of these resource elements is not just a theoretical logical deduction and systematic analysis, but requires improvised inspiration, obsession with details, and creativity. Fourthly, people's faith in science and technology is quietly transforming into a reverence for art and creativity. On the one hand, compared to professions such as lawyers, accountants, and auditors, many people prefer to work in the fields of art, entertainment, and design. For example, art designers in the United States have grown tenfold in the past decade. On the other hand, creativity is becoming a global trend. Singapore's creative industry, with design, art, and media as its three pillars, has an average annual growth rate of over 8% higher than economic growth. And Shanghai's creative industry has also accounted for 6.55% of the local GDP. In addition, the government's emphasis and cultivation on the creative industry, such as Chongqing's plan to build 20 creative industry bases in 2008, bringing the assets of the creative industry to over 800 billion by 2012, will undoubtedly accelerate the switching of the creative engine. As a result, with in left brain control is clearly outdated, and the thinking style of the younger generation has shifted from left switch from brain to right brain. The right brain belongs to the brain that can generate beauty and joy through inspiration, intuition, music, art, religion, and other aspects. It processes information through spatial dependence and intuitive simulation of creative thinking, opening up a jumping and fantasy imagination space for humans. The right brain represents personalization, virtualization, creativity, and fashion, which precisely matches the infiltration of multiple civilizations, the intersection of multiple ways, and the fusion of multiple needs under globalization. For convening of the ultimate goal of the $1 billion rescue fund operation is to attract and leverage more private capital and social resources to join in the reconstruction of market order and confidence. This means that the problems caused by the greed of many players on Wall Street will ultimately be solved together by these players. As for the possible changes, whether it is directly controlled by the government, serving as both a judge and an athlete, or investing in private capital, investing in non-performing assets, the government's return from the front to the back means that it is difficult for the government to stand on the opposite side of private capital or market players. Mixed operation and joint cooperation may become new features of the next stage of the financial market. From the trend of mixed operation between commercial banks and investment banks, it can be seen that commercial banks have not been spared this time, with the support of investment banks and hedge funds improperly taking on the risk of excessive home buyers and the excessive debt of investment banks themselves supported by credit products. The combination of the two may lead to further deterioration of the problem. Therefore, after the dust settles, after a period of repair, commercial banks are likely to repackage and sell their investment banking business, and the investment banking model will obviously not end. However, the transparency and leverage ratio of its derivative trading, including executives, will be strictly required and restricted. In fact, entering the financial civilization, the existence and reproduction of financial innovation and financial derivatives has become an important economic approach, which undoubtedly has a gambling nature, is inherently guilty of surplus liquidation. Therefore, this requires innovation in trading methods to adapt to the development of derivatives. In fact, the financial crisis is causing the global financial market to fall into painful reflection, making the United States and other countries, including the United States, face the challenge of the Washington Consensus. Although the major countries in the world have coordinated their actions to cut interest rates and inject capital, it is not difficult to imagine that after the crisis, the opening of the financial field of all countries will be cautious and explore the development path of the virtual financial market for the battlefield. In the short term, financial civilization has stagnated, but in the long run, with the recovery of investment banks, confusion between governments and financial institutions, especially the weakening of Wall Street's financial power center, which once dominated the game rules, and a decrease in trust, the international financial derivatives market will eventually become a large